let me welcome quickly their Power Pack panel, and it's going to talk about outlook of e-commerce landscape in Southeast Asia, which is talking about business trend, technology trend, and how we can catch up. The panelist is Anand Ramodeo, who is CRO of Ranosys, Justin Link, which is enterprise commerce specialist from Adobe, and Aamir Niaz, he's a digital commerce build practice lead from Accenture Song. If we talk about Anand, Anand has been, a friend, and he is a go-to person when you talk about digital transformation, retail transformation, innovation, digital commerce, experience, anything and everything about technology, and when business wants to get into the new shape. He has worked with the software powerhouse such as Amazon, IBM, Rational in the past. When we talk about Justin, he is senior enterprise commerce specialist in Southeast Asia market, and he also loves to talk about digital commerce, digital transformation, and he's having more than 15 years of experience in enterprise software. And Aamir is passionate about technology, so anything around tech for retail, manufacturing, order management, warehouse management, all the things which we use for delivering omni-channel experience. He is expert at that, and he also loves the certifications and endorse a couple of them. So please welcome our keynote panel.
Well, thank you, Vatsal, for introduction, for setting up the stage and context, and thank you everyone for participating throughout. It has been an amazing day so far. I had a great fun in the event so far, and I hope that it would continue. This is just the second last session. We will have a thank you note from our CEO, RV, and the fun will start after that. We have drinks in the marketplace, and then we'll all hopefully go out to supply and demand for a fun night. All right, now that Vatsal has got me started, why don't we start with a question as well? So how many of you work in the Southeast Asian market in some shape or form? Please raise your hand. Okay. So a majority of the audience is working in the Southeast Asian market. And from your perspective, do you see growth in the next 5-10 years in this market? Do you think that the growth journey is just starting? Please raise your hand. Great. Great. So I think this is what we are going to talk about today. What is the outlook of Southeast Asian market as far as the e-commerce is concerned? What are the opportunities? What are the challenges? Where we see the action is happening. And more than me, I am banking on the insight that Aamir and Justin will share from the work that they have been doing in this market for a long, long time. So, introduction part is already taken care of by Vatsal. So I have nothing more to say, but Aamir or Justin, if there is anything that you think that the audience should know, please go ahead. Aamir, do you want to go first?
Okay, let's see how many really heard him. What's my name? How many of you can call my name?
Mike.
How many of you can pronounce my name? Let me just take from the audience. Where do I work? What's my role?
Manish, you can't answer, sorry.
Not the Accenture guys,
You gave it away, Aamir.
So I work for the Southeast Asia Accenture team, and I lead the build practice for anything about the commerce platforms, technology stack when it comes to the solutions and advising clients on that. Before joining Accenture, I have been in the industry for almost 15 years plus now. Started with enterprise apps, and the rebirth somewhere around 2010 and 11 to the consumer-facing platforms, more on the owner experience part of it. And ever since, into this commerce and any related technology for the past 7 to 10 years now. So that's a quick update from me. Justin?
Sure. So my name is Justin Link. I work as an enterprise commerce specialist at Adobe, covering the Southeast Asia market. Have been at Adobe for 2.5 years, working with clients, both new and existing, to help them transform their enterprise businesses with digital commerce. So really happy to be here, and really thanks again to the team for inviting us to speak.
Great.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Aamir and Justin, to add more information. Probably the only information that I will share is that I'm usually based out of the UK, in London specifically. So any excuse we guys get out of, Maurizio is here with me as my colleague. So any excuse we get out of coming out of London, we take it. And so very glad to be here, very glad to be here in sunshine. We are not missing the clouds. All right. All right, let's get started. Since we're talking about Southeast Asian market, let's hear what is it that makes Southeast Asia special. So Aamir, from your perspective, how big is the Southeast Asian market? And what are some of the leading sectors from the internet industry?
Thanks, Anand. So, okay, before really jumping into the numbers straight away, just giving some stats in terms of the population, right, and the demographics in the region, if we look into it, that how these parameters are really favorable, especially in this decade. We call it here in Southeast Asia as a digital decade, up to 2030. So there's a total of around 595 million strong population in the whole region. And the internet penetration is around 75%. So what does it mean is 440 million users are on the internet. They are subscribers, they are the daily users. And it's not just like they are using internet or they are subscribers. Almost like 80% of them have made at least one online purchase in the last 1 year. So this translates, like if you quantify this number, it's going to today, as of today, is around $174 billion worth of GMV, just for 2021. And this is an uplift in from 2020 to 21, almost 50% jump in the GMV sales in the past 1 year. So looking at these numbers, you can see while it's at 174, but the interesting part is the trend here, especially in the last few years. What the trend has been is almost 80 million new internet users who got onboarded. And these users are not just the urban population. A lot of them, they are from the non-metro areas in the rural population. That's where the opportunity is coming in. So means with this penetration of internet users in the next few years, up to 2030, when the internet access goes to the rural areas, the potential is huge. So this growth will not remain like right now. It's getting much, it will surpass the previous expectations that industry has made so far about this growth. So that's the fact about the Southeast Asia. And the leading markets that we have seen is Vietnam, Philippines, and Indonesia. These are the three leading markets. In fact, one of my colleagues, Siraj, he's leading our growth market pillar. And he mentioned in one of the comments on LinkedIn, it's not just Southeast Asia, these are globally the leading markets across all regions as well, not just in Southeast Asia. So everything is favorable in this region, the opportunity is there. Now it's really about how we as technologists or the businesses or merchants, whoever, we tap onto it, how quickly we can respond to this opportunity and meet the expectations from these internet users.
Great, thank you, Aamir. And give us a sense of how these markets are projected to grow in future and how COVID has impacted this growth trajectory.
If I take it near term and the long term, right, I initially mentioned, there's a study done by Google and Temasek here in Singapore recently with the government collaboration. So the outcome, what they have given is, we are heading to a 1 trillion economy by 2030. From 700 billion to 1 trillion is the projection. That's the long-term vision, and they call it as a digital decade. But for the next 2 years, what's in there by 2025? Especially because of the COVID, there's a surge for sure. It's going to be a twofold. By 2025, from 174 today, it's projected to grow to almost $375 billion. That's 100% increase from the existing numbers. And e-commerce is the leading sector inside it. So total out of the 370, what we are talking about, it's around 270 is in the e-commerce, 270 billion just for the e-commerce sector. Mm-hmm. And now, another question that comes, many people have been asking when we were in discussion, will it really sustain and retain this trend that we have seen in the last 2 years? But the survey that was conducted, 3 key things which came out of it. that even after the COVID restrictions were relaxed, there is a continuous adoption of the new internet users. So the internet user adoption keep on increasing. So it's not stopping there. So even if it's triggered through the COVID, it still continue. And from the existing users as well, what we have seen in the survey output and the results, on average, existing users have increased their portfolio of online purchase 4 more services on average. So what they were buying before pandemic, now it's like 4 more services added to that portfolio. And another key question answered by more than like 80% of the participants is they are very happy with what they are doing. The digital platforms and the experience online purchase, they will stick to it and they will continue to keep using these services even moving forward. So that tells us the trend that it's not going to stop. So what was triggered with the COVID, it will continue. And with the new access to the internet, to the rural population, new digital payment services coming like wallets. One fact, like, these unbanked population in Southeast Asia, we have very few people in the rural areas with the access to the cards and the banking services. So digital wallets are accelerating this, right? So they are enabling a lot of these users to go and buy online. So that's the kind of trend we see is happening in the industry. The growth, how it looks like.
You are absolutely right, Aamir. We have seen even in our daily life, we might have observed that there are habits that we probably formed during COVID times. And COVID times is gone, but we are still following those habits. So would be the case with the internet commerce, digital commerce. People started probably their journey because there were no alternatives. But that does not mean that they are going to stop that. So Justin, from your perspective, do you share the same sentiment? Do you observe the same things when we talk about growth trajectory? What are your observations?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say that in this market, when it comes to what COVID did, it really took 5 years of digital transformation. And what would have taken 5 years, it happened in literally like 1 year, right? So that growth has been exponential. And I think when we look at the different markets and industries, everybody has had to embrace what it means to engage in a digital world. So the growth has been absolutely phenomenal. I think overnight we've seen a flood of companies coming into Adobe and asking how we can help. And it's really, it's been very interesting, I would say, across all pillars, B2C, B2B, hybrid. It's been a good ride, yeah.
And is there any differences in terms of what you have observed, in terms of how companies behave differently depending on the model that they operate in, B2C, D2C, B2B, and we have seen a plenty of innovation around a combination of these models?
Yeah, so I would say it's been happening across the board. I would say with COVID, we saw industries like food really accelerate. So a lot of B2C opportunities. But even in the B2B space, by having lockdowns, having businesses not be able to actually meet with their clients, and having all of that have to be transformed digitally, we've seen a lot of companies that had to really find solutions to how do you engage in a B2B world where you can actually meet your clients. So it's really affected every single business model industry that we've seen, but primarily B2C has been kind of the fastest growing in the market, followed by B2B.
All right. And do you see that there are brands, probably brands that are specifically operating in these regions who may have a different channel for distribution now becoming ambitious enough to go direct to consumer? Do you see a growth in D2C? What's your observation around that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say D2C has been a very fast growing segment. I think just understanding that loyalty is long gone, right? It's all about how businesses can serve their customers, and experience is really king. We've seen a lot of companies really look at how they can go direct to consumer, obviously trying to manage that channel conflict. You don't want to make your distributors angry. You want to think about solving, the question, why would somebody want to buy directly from our company? But seeing with COVID, definitely transformed a lot of thought processes, and definitely saw a lot of companies rethink their models and think about direct-to-consumer as a good strategy.
Great.
So Anand, just on the B2B part, few stats in the Southeast Asia, what we have seen in the recent study is B2B, even though still the merchants are struggling, they don't know how to do it, what exactly is there for them to solution. But in terms of the opportunity and the consumer expectations, the procurement teams, buyers and sellers, what they are struggling with. So for Southeast Asia, the YCP did the study, and the Southeast Asia right now, the population, 65% of the population is 40 years and below, and they are all very tech savvy. Now, in our daily interactions, when they deal with the financial services, their own B2C experiences, the expectations, what they see there, and once you get into the office and go and place an order using an Excel sheet, so they feel a lot of gap there. So the expectation by all these buyers, this new population is, they want the B2B experience to be very similar to B2C. And this is going to happen. It's just that we are not ready as an industry. We don't have the solutions for them, but the need is there, opportunity is there. And another interesting fact, a change that happened, even though they don't have the systems, 90% of the time, the intent is already made even for the B2B purchase with the online search. So all these users, the procurement buyers, they will typically go to the Google search, make an intent, okay, this is what I'm looking for. So the sale part is pretty much, the final evaluation stage. So from the awareness to the intent is already taken care by the online journey. So these are the facts already there. It's happening right now. So it's just about the platform technologies to come and fast-pace this transformation for B2B as well. Right.
Great. So Justin and Aamir, both of you look at your clients, your merchants from a very different angle. Obviously, you want to help them, you want to serve them in the most appropriate way. But the challenges that you look at are very different in nature. So from your perspective, Justin, what are some of the key challenges that you have encountered when you interact with your clients?
Yeah, so I would say that a lot of the challenges I've seen in the market have just been foundational in nature, right? We've seen clients that they just made a purchase to have an e-commerce platform because they knew that they needed to be there. But when COVID hit and their business mainly turned into an e-commerce business, they struggled with that scale, right? And they saw issues with how do we actually personalize the experience one-to-one? So every customer that comes in, we're showing them what they want to see, what they want to purchase, and make sure that we're driving them along that customer journey. So I think that it was kind of, from my point of view, there's just been like the lack of strategy in a lot of cases where they've been told you need to have e-commerce, so they've gone out, they've procured a commerce platform, and they said, well, we've invested, we've done what we could, but they missed the whole point, right? Like having the foundational investment there around, how do we make sure that we're unifying data, we're able to have the right technology come in at the right place, how are we reorganizing the business around people and process. So I think a lot of that didn't really happen in the early stages, and I think COVID really exposed that. So I think the challenge now is just trying to get back to, okay, well, you've invested in a platform, yes, but it doesn't scale, right? So how do we actually go back to the drawing board? Let's solve your business challenge more holistically, and let's start with what do you need foundational to get right, and how can we help you actually meet that scale and bring things like personalization, because at the end of the day, it's all about experience, right? It's not just about a digital transaction. It's how do we actually serve customers no matter where they're at in the journey and show them that we actually know who they are, we know what they want, and we help actually enable them during that transactional process.
Great. It's good to hear that, Justin. Today morning when Maurizio was giving his keynote, he was specifically talking about the power of simplicity and specifically about recommending that, ensuring that your fundamentals are in place, they are intact before you chase what he calls as pink unicorn. is a really, really important thing to do. Otherwise, you might end up chasing things that will not give you the right results. So, Aamir, what are your observations? What are the key challenges that you typically encounter?
So I think where I come from is more, a lot of time, these merchants, they are looking for, okay, I want to go digital, I want to go online, but why? What do I want to achieve out of it, right? So they end up doing a technological transformation, but they don't really know why we did it. What was the outcome we were expecting out of this whole thing? So once this is done, and along the journey after 1 year, we don't get to see the results. What's really the business benefit in this whole thing? So I think the important piece is about that strategy bit as well. To give them the advice to these new customers who want to come online, that how you are going to generate the revenue from digital, right? So it's not just about platforms. So that strategy bit together with the technology has to come together to solve this problem. So customers, they are still struggling to do it because they don't know. So we have to advise them on the holistic picture, not just one part of it. And then there are technicalities. What we have seen is even now, the companies, they have a very siloed view. Oh, we do the commerce experience. We can help you to do the website. Okay, who is going to fulfill my orders? Where's my logistics? Who's doing the warehousing? They don't know the answers to all these. So unless we have that complete integrated view for them, help them to enable that how to do all this, right? So we don't end up, okay, I just build a site for you and go up. In the next part of the story, how you are going to fulfill it, what's the optimal way to do it, and how to do the post-purchase journey and the customer support. So this whole complete end-to-end experience is where they are struggling. They typically end up, going to many different vendors, and they don't really get that experience they were looking for.
I think from our perspective, one of the key things that we have observed quite often is that when people make technological decisions, they often do not think about the adoption of the technology that they're investing in. Because at the end of the day, you can invest in technology, you can put a platform in place, but ensuring that the value of the platform is realized is not down to implementing it, but it's down to using it day in and day out and ensuring that it is used as intended. So operational training, ensuring that everybody within the workforce is also bought into using the platform that are being in place is also a very important part of the strategy, and that is often overlooked when the decisions are made purely on the technology. All right, so for the next part, I really am looking to get some interaction from you. So please, can you start clapping if you are on LinkedIn? If you have an account on LinkedIn, can you please start clapping? And please continue to clap. All right. Please continue to clap if you are on Pinterest as well. Okay. Please start clapping if you are on Facebook. Please clap if you are on WhatsApp. Nice. Well, stop clapping if you have not heard about Orkut. Okay, so that's fine. So thank you for the participation. I wanted to make sure that everybody in the panel, including me, get some claps, so it was my way of ensuring that. Thank you. Well, if you heard claps, you may have also realized that all of us are on some form of social network. Social is a dominating force. And I wanted to bring this discussion to Aamir. Aamir, what is it that you have seen in this space?
Yes, so with these claps, one thing is obvious, right? All of us, we are connected with social in some ways. And do you really see, like if you get the option to buy from your existing social channels, would you go to anywhere else, right? We will not probably. If we get to see everything from our social platforms, if I have a way of doing it, the transactions through the social channels, the need, the intent, it's based on one of the Accenture studies that we have done in-house. And the key finding out of it, why people would like to go into this social commerce. It's like people want to keep the minimal channels, as minimal as possible. We don't like to go to 4 or 5, 3 different places to engage with different services. If I can get it at one place, social is something all of us very much connected with it. So if we get a purchase experience to look at the products and buy from my existing social channels? For sure, I think many of us here in the audience would have an answer to this question. So why the social is an opportunity right now? So when we did this research and the numbers we have seen, it's a global study, not just for Southeast Asia. Today, the social commerce is around roughly $4.9 billion worth of GMVs. And it's going to go by threefolds, but just in 2 years. By 2025, the projection is it may cross $1 trillion, around $1.2 trillion. And looking at now, the adaptation of the social shops, many of the merchants, they are going either on the Facebook, Insta shops, or in the Pinterest as well. So Facebook adoption has increased by 24% roughly in the last 1 year or two. Insta around 60%, and Pinterest is interestingly threefold, 300% increase on doing sales on the Pinterest. So that can give you a view where it's heading, what kind of potential opportunities there. The challenges are in, we know that our technology and platform doesn't have that ideal experience, especially in Southeast Asia. Existing social platforms don't give you the payment options. It's a very disconnected journey, so it's not ideal. So these challenges are to be resolved. Opportunity is there, consumer demand is there. It's just how quickly we can come up with that solution. Many of you, if you can start and come up with a solution for it, you might be a millionaire in the next couple of years. So there's a huge potential. Social commerce is one of the focus areas in the next few years you will see down the line.
All right. And I certainly agree. I have not made any purchase on Pinterest. I don't know how to operate TikTok, but that might be a reflection of my age more than anything else.
That tells your age.
All right. So, Justin, innovation is something that is happening constantly, specifically in the retail space. There isn't any aspect of retail that is not innovating. When we look at brick and mortar, we have stores like Amazon Go. When we look at digital commerce, people are talking about augmented reality. What is your view? What is the insight that you can share about the platform? How is the platform evolving to address some of the changes that are happening, some of the innovation that is happening in this space?
Yeah, it's a great question. I would say that from the platform side, we're quite aggressive in investing in what the future looks like. And I think there's two answers. There's the non-sexy answer, which is we invest a lot in performance, scalability, and security to make sure that we're helping merchants as their volume increases, that we're able to serve any channel where they're engaging their customers. So there's definitely been a lot of investment happening there just to make sure that we're enabling merchants to be future ready. But on the other side of it, there's a lot of interesting things that we're doing in the platform. I think there was a really good example that was talked about as part of the Adobe Sneaks program at Adobe Summit, which is around this project called Project Right-Sized. And essentially what it was this capability which enables merchants to really solve problems related to their customers returning items because of size issues, right? You buy something, it doesn't fit in the house, and then you end up returning it, which is not a great experience. So what we did is we created the ability to help merchants embed AR markers in their digital product imagery. And essentially what you could do is you could scan that product image and you could actually see the right size of the product virtually in your home. So that was a really good example of being able to help merchants solve for that. So I think we're seeing a lot more investment in these areas. I think AR is very interesting. We talk about the metaverse, and I think from an Adobe perspective, what's really exciting from Adobe is the fact that we are bringing kind of the full cycle, right? We help creators create, right? So we've got this huge creative business, which obviously is very popular with all these creators, and being able to actually help them prototype and then deliver these experiences in extremely connected ways. So it's been really interesting. I think there's a lot more investments that are happening in this area, and definitely we're constantly thinking about new opportunities where we can play a part.
Great. So, Aamir, from your example, from your experience, are your clients looking at augmented reality, virtual reality, metaverse, thinking anything around those directions?
Our MDs are very much focused on it, but yeah, no, there is definitely. I think I was reading this one of our internal, offering study on this. Accenture being one of those leading partners who are pushing for the metaverse, the 3D commerce. So we call it a 3D commerce. So just 150 years back, you could see people used to send the catalogs, the real product catalogs, dispatched through postal service in homes, right? So that's like kind of giving you an experience of generating the demand. People look at it and buy it. So we are now getting into something similar because that experience was missing now ever since we started on the digital space in the 2D commerce. People lost that touch, right, with that experience of looking at the products, viewing it in a more VR kind of, or in the how you experience it in the reality in the stores. So this would be an interesting area. People will show interest in it. It's still very early stage. We don't have any technology solution to enable it, to foresee it. But if you look at the human behavior, right, the expectations, all of us, we would like to experience the stuff. What we can't do it right now, today in the 2D commerce space. So this will be an interesting area to look into. It's still in a very early stage. Let's see how it unfolds. There are offerings coming in. Yet to see the results. Not much of quantifiable data to support at the moment.
So, Aamir, you talked about a large population in the Southeast Asia who may not have the bank account, and as a result of that, some of the features that we take it for granted in the Western world may not be relevant, right? So what are some of the similar challenges which are very regional in nature, maybe language, maybe logistic, maybe payments, that you have seen, that you think that as an SI, as a merchant, as a platform, people should be aware of?
Yes, so two areas what we have seen. I think Adobe has done a right thing by offloading all the payments from the core platform, right? So let it be the regional companies or the third-party vendors come up with those solutions because they know the local market much better. So we have seen in Southeast Asia the people having access to banking accounts, cards is not really much. So a lot of unbanked population here. So that's one of the reasons why the digital wallets really accelerated. The growth of digital wallets in Southeast Asia compared to the other regions is much more. And that has given an answer or an ability for the non-metro population to start doing the purchase online. So this has been one classic example how the solutions in the local markets has helped and work together with the global platforms like Adobe. Another thing, an issue we see is more on the logistics side, which I have seen especially because Indonesia is a growing market. There's a lot of uplift in the e-commerce space. Looking at the landscape, it's so many islands. It's like thousands of islands in Philippines and in Indonesia. And companies are struggling how to make the logistics work here, how to meet the delivery SLAs. These are very localized challenges, and still there is no answer. People are struggling, companies are struggling on it. So those kind of local flavors is an opportunity to come up with the solution to help adapt to the e-commerce in those regions as well, and it's also going to help as a business for us to come up with the solutions to those unresolved questions at the moment.
Anything you want to add, Justin?
No, I think that's great. I think, payments is a great example. The logistics, last mile delivery, massive challenge. I think even just from like the social channel perspective, and even just when you think about the regional differences between, are we using WhatsApp? Are we talking about Kakao Talk if we're in Korea, Line, Japan, Thailand, Indonesia? So I think, there's definitely a lot of regional differences, but I think, Adobe has done a great job just making sure that we're providing merchants with flexibility, and I think that's one of the hallmarks of the platform is just being able to ensure that those functionalities are there in a way that our partners can take advantage of them for the use case that they serve.
Sure. And do you think that, considering that Adobe is now going towards composable route, where pretty much all the key activities that is expected out of an e-commerce platform is exposed, and whatever else is not fitting to the purpose for a specific market can be extended, would accelerate that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's funny because what a lot of people don't realize is, composable is really like a marketing buzzword. And what's interesting is that Adobe Commerce has been built in a composable way for many years, actually. So for those of you that don't know, we've had this microservices architecture for a long time. And we do enable clients to take advantage of what they need, and if there's something that they need to bring in from the outside, we do provide the ability to bring in those additional services. So yeah, I definitely think acceleration and reducing TCO is definitely part of our mission at Adobe, and absolutely, yeah.
No, absolutely, Justin. And I think one of the main reasons why our clients tend to use Adobe is because of this extendability. They can extend the solution in the shape or form that is the most suitable for them. And Vikrant highlighted in his session today that composable is nothing new in the Adobe e-commerce world as such. All right, considering the time, I'm going to skip some of the things that I thought that we will cover. I want to make sure that we get to drinks as soon as possible. But before I let that happen, what are the final thoughts? What are the parting advices that you would like to offer, Aamir?
Okay, perhaps maybe, I take it from our minister, parliamentarian, Mr. Chan. He was an industrial minister some time back. I heard him exactly in the same hall. There was a big event for IBM Think, they call it IBM Think something. So he had a very interesting question through the whole audience there. The question was, do you think IBM will be there in the next 10 years? And this is a company that has been there for more than a century. So the question is, and the answer is, can we really say for sure it would be still there? And another interesting than the perspective he brought in is that the average, the life cycle of S&P 500 companies in the last century has reduced from 50 years to 15 years. So if you are no more relevant, if you are no more beneficial to the ecosystem around you, your logical death is confirmed within 15 years. I think if we take the same key message, so I will just talk about the guiding principles, not really, about Magento itself. For any business, for any SI, for any platform, for us to make sure that we don't die in those 10 to 15 years is the continuous innovation and being relevant to the ecosystem. And I think this is a great example how the Magento community itself has been evolving for the last so many years, but we can't still say for sure we would still be there in the next 5 years. Unless we make sure we are evolving, we are bringing the right offerings which are relevant to the market, to the consumers, to the businesses. Unless we are not beneficial to the ecosystem around us, we will die. And that's the natural law as well. Any species which is not beneficial to the ecosystem just dies. So that holds true for all of us. I think that's a message even for us. I mean, for me to be relevant to our market, if we are not evolving, we are not learning new things, we will be relevant, right? So it's a similar story. I think the same stuff for e-commerce platforms or any platform. I think this is the advice if I have to give. Thanks to Mr. Chan, he's the real person behind this. But I learned that, and I would say that was one key takeaway for me from that speech. That's the message.
Thank you, Aamir, and that's a very powerful one. Staying relevant, staying contextual is a really important thing. Justin, any parting thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, the main message is innovate or die, right? It's that dramatic. I think the main takeaway that I would say is now is the time to act with urgency. I think there is no doubt that the world has radically changed, and this change is here to stay. So I would say that in this region, one thing that I think is really important is you've got to go back to the foundation, right, of why do we need to digitally transform ourselves. I think now is the time to think more holistically about business and not think about short-term goals. You have to think about the right investment to make to meet medium and long-term goals, right? I think we've seen too many cases recently where somebody made an investment and they said, well, we're on e-commerce. We've got a store and what else do we need? But if that commerce experience is not relevant, if it's not personalized, right, you're losing business, right? And I think, as Aamir just said, it's all about, you've got to innovate, right? Because a lot of these companies, they may not be here in 5, 10 years if they don't act with that urgency. So I think this is really a wake-up call, and I think it's the right time to think not just about channels, right? It's not just about B2C, it's not just about B2B. It's about understanding how you can personalize the experience that you're offering everywhere where your customers are engaging. And I think going back to that foundation is really important. Yeah.
Definitely. Thank you, Justin. And acting with urgency is important. I've got signs from Vatsal couple of times, and as far as staying relevant is concerned, you stay relevant by talking to people. So I would encourage you all to join us for drinks, have conversation, and as a result of that, learn something meaningful and stay relevant. Well, Vatsal, nothing else from my side. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to have this conversation.
Thank you, guys. It was an insightful talk, and thanks, Aamir, for echoing the evolution talk I did.